Sanjeev sent the ball rolling and he gives a good idea about, what the pediatrician should looking out and what they should be doing in the clinic, how to manage. So I'll be talking about, the role of puberty blockers from the endocrine point of view, because it's a very important thing which has been taken up now. And just to, what Dr. Sanjay said was that, in our MBBS, MD, even curriculum, and even doing my specialization, we never had a talk on transgender. So it's basically something which has come up recently in the last few years, and people are getting more aware. And then because of that, is law also in the legal law is also there in the Indian government. So this is just a flag. It is by there's transgender flag which is there, and this is a transgender symbol which is used by for transgender people. So quickly, because Sanjeev has already discussed the definitions, I just quickly go through them very fast. So gender identity or experienced gender, which refers to one's internal deeply sense of grief. So for transgender people, the gender identity does not match their sex designated at birth. So most of the children, now we'll talk from pediatric, most of the children have identity as a girl or a boy. But some of these children, their gender identity does not fit into one of these two choices. So but gender identity is not like gender expression. So in gender expression, you can see it's visible that the boy is walking like a girl or the girl is behaving like a boy. And then you use it, she's a tomboy. So there in gender expression, it is not, well, it is visible, but gender identity is not visible to others. Then comes gender dysphoria. Like Dr. Sanjeev mentioned, it is distress and uneasiness experience if gender identity and designated gender is not completely congruent, not completely congruent. So if there's partial congruence, then it is not actually going to be, maybe no need to do anything for that child. So in the 2013, the American Psychiatric Association released a fifth edition of the DSM, which replaced gender identity disorder with gender dysphoria and changed the criteria for diagnosis. So gender identity came gender dysphoria. Then come gender expression. This is the most important thing that pediatrician must understand, because this is the external manifestations of the gender, which is expressed through a noun. Sunita maybe Sunil, Anita maybe Anil, pronouns he, you, who, the clothing, wearing boy, wearing girls, girls wearing clothing, haircut style, behavior, the voice, or, the body characteristics, in walking with a gait, different gait. So these typical transgender people seek to make their gender expression with their, gender identity rather than the designated gender. So that's very important. So they makes this gender expression. Now, gender identity disorder is mostly not being used now. It's more of incongruence, or you're the patient or the child is not having. So, is gender incongruence is a term is commonly used now. So this gender identity disorder was a term used for gender dysphoria or gender incongruence in the previous version of DSM. So let's get the gender identity out now. Just talk about gender incongruence, gender incongruence. So the ICD still uses a term for diagnosing child gender identity, but the recent ICD-11 has proposed a gender incongruence of childhood. So gender incongruence is it's an umbrella term when the gender identity and the gender expression differs from what is typically associated with the designated gender. So this okay now. It's therefore we'll start with using the word only gender incongruence. And gender incongruence is also the proposed name of the gender identity related diagnosis in ICD-11, as I told you. And it is not necessary that all individuals, that's this umbrella term, that all individual gender incongruence have gender dysphoria or they seek treatment. It is not necessary. So there's a cartoon showing a boy playing with dolls and a girl playing with trucks and cars. So this is basically an expression. So the law in India, under legalization, which was passed in 2019, the transgender people in India are allowed to change their legal gender. So that means post-sex reassignment surgery, and they have a right, a constitutional right, to register themselves under a third gender. So, and this is just a line that 2018 Supreme Court of India decriminalized consensual homosexuality. Now, coming to the top, role of pivotal blockers. The current treatment of this, gender incongruence or gender identity disorder involves both the hormonal and the surgical modalities, and it's been well defined for the adult patient. So for adults, there is no issue. We know that this is the hormone, this is the surgery. You have to do this. You're like a trans, you're a trans male. You need to, you're like from female to male. You need to move the uterus, ovaries, and you do a surgery, and then you go. So therefore, it's slightly different. Now they're coming on to the pediatric population. It entails suppression of puberty using exogenous hormones. We'll talk more in the next slides. Before the patient significantly develop the secondary sexual characters of his or biological sex. So whether it's going to be a female or a male, female building breast, building hair, and getting menarche, or a boy getting enlarged penis and scrotum size increasing, getting facial hair. So these are the secondary sexual character. So basically, this is what we are going to talk about. Now, and then what is the difference between adult and the pediatrics population for the criteria for gender affirming in hormone therapy adults? So it should be persistent, well documented gender dysphoria, gender incongruence. Okay, that should be there. Now we're not talking about gender. See, I'm moving the term gender. We're just talking about gender dysphoria, gender incongruence. The capacity to make a full informed consent. So already most of the adults will have, unless he has a mental issue or some other issues there, he has a capacity and to consent for the treatment. This is the criteria. The age of majority in a given country. So it may be 18 in some country, maybe 16 in another country, but in our country, 18 years in India. If the younger, like if there is on 10, 12, then you have to follow the criteria for adolescence, which we talk in the next slide. The mental health concerns, if present, must be reasonably well controlled. That's very, very important. You must control that. And we had the previous session, we had talked about, we've seen the mental health issue they're talking. Now coming on to the children and the adolescents. The whole endocrine society guidelines, they recommend, we're talking about that. Let me see the Indian version a little. The Indian society guidelines recommend that transgender adolescents should be offered gonadotropin releasing hormone analogs. So this may be, just as this may be XXS something, some people who are in this listening to this talk. Basically, gonadotropin, we'll talk about this. What are gonadotropin releasing hormone analogs? So they are called a puberty blocker. They prevent the puberty to go on further once the child reaches Tanner stage 2. So what is, Sanjeev also talked about this, Tanner stage. What is this Tanner stage 2 of puberty? So this is a diagram, this is a cartoon which anybody can understand because all, as adults, we have most of people adults who are listening to this. So you have a girl who has just bare chest, nothing is there. You can see here. And you have another girl who's going into another stage. So she has some breast budding. You can see, if you see the side view, you can see there's some breast budding, there is some enlargement in the area of the breast area. Then stage 3 is very big breast mound is there, already a mound is there. Then stage 4, there's a breast mound and the areola projection, then there's stage 5 adult. So the way they say that to take over is when the patients, girls start in stage 2. That's the best time to act, and so you will not have breast development, you will not have menarche to occur. And now coming on to boys, the testicular volume of being a 4 mm. So they are basically this, the staging is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one is normal. Stage 2 is the here also the testicular volume is around 4 ml. And then this is where you should take an action. Then the stage 3 will be more, it may go up to 8 ml. Then stage 4 is another higher than 10 to 15 ml, then 15 to 12 to 15, 20 ml. So as the stages go, the volume of the testing will. So the best way to attack is on stage 2 in Tanner stage 2, that means breast stage 2 in girls, and the testicular volume on 4 ml, that is Tanner stage 2 in boys. So this is the base, what the guidelines say, and we also say the same as far as Indian society or Indian guideline will say, and we don't have any guidelines at present on this, but I think with Dr. Sanjay, we'll collaborate and make something. Now, what is the role of these pivotal blockers? So what the GnRH analog, this suppress the body release of sex hormone. That means testosterone in boys and estrogen in girls during the puberty. So what do? They affect the primary sex characters and the secondary sex characters. So the primary sex characters, these are sexual organs which is present at birth. The penis, scrotum, testes in boys, and the uterus, ovary, and vagina in girls. So therefore, they will not allow these things to increase in size. So the uterus will not become, will become tubular. It will remain tubular, not become globular. The penis will remain small in size. So these things they attack on these. Besides that, the secondary sexual character. These are changes in the body that occurs during puberty. And once these children of transgender male or transgender female, they get these changes, then then dysphoria becomes too much. So therefore, they start behaving and they get all this issue with Dr. Sanjeev was telling you, as far as mental health is concerned, suicidal tendency, all this. So the example is this breast development in case of girls and growth of facial hair. So this is a concern which is there. Now, This is a very these so basically GRH agonists, they act on GNRH receptor. So they cause overstimulation of these receptors, as you can see here. This is basically a cartoon which is showing the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and gonadal axis. We all have this, this axis in our body. So there's hypothalamus, the pituitary, and gonadal axis. Here, this is the testes, this is the ovaries. So this GRH analogs will go and overstimulation of the receptors. So it causes negative. So it prevents the release of LH and FSH. So LH, FSH is luteinizing hormone, FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. Then it decreases sex hormones. So therefore, the puberty will slow down, slow down, slow down till you keep on giving the GNH analog. And it is seen that when you suppress gonadal hormone use of GNHR agonists, the hormone levels of sex is almost decreased by 95% both the sexes. So this is a cartoon we have shown you. I've shown this. So what is GNH and what they're doing? Now coming on to the adolescents and the children, who have gender dysphoria and gender incongruence with, because of puberty. So usually expressing this with GNH organ, why you're doing it? The question is, why should I do it for the child at all? So the reason is, when you give pubertal suppression, it can expand the diagnostic phase by long period. So you have a lot of time to discuss with the parent, with the child, everything. So you get a lot of time to, and because he's become already maybe 9, 10 years, 12 years, 13 years of age, and by the time he understands more, so he gets more time for, expand the diagnosis phase, giving the subject more time to explore the options. Many of these will leave this and come back to their designated sex. Okay. So live in, and they get time to live and experience gender before making decision to proceed with gender affirming hormone, sex hormone treatments or surgery, which may not be reversible. Many of these surgery is not reversible. So that's why you give them more time to think. You get more time to experience the gender before the final decision. So that's the use of using this pubertal suppression. What are the other benefits of pubertal suppression? It improves the mental well-being. So he gets time, he starts thinking, he starts working, okay, this is going to be help, it's not going to help. So because he's not, he's a 12-year, 30-year-old child who understands better, so give him time more other 2 years. So it's improving his mental well-being to make thinking more. The anxiety, which is their gender dysphoria, anxiety, uneasiness becomes less, depression becomes less. It makes a child, because he's getting now less of anxiety, so he's more better in social interaction with the other kids. And it may need the need for further surgery. Maybe he might just forget about it. So reduce thoughts or action related to self-harm, which Dr. Sanjeev mentioned, suicidal tendencies. One has to be very careful, especially in the adolescent problem. You can see here, this is a cartoon which is showing that this girl is saying, I just wanted to die, because she was initially, getting so many confusion in the mind, and she was confused and she did not go out. So this is just an example. So what are the other benefits? The pubertal suppression is fully reversible. So GnRNS, once you remove the GnRNS, it's fully reversible. So all the things come back to normal. Your LHF is excreted, your sex hormones come out, your testosterone boys come out, estrogen come out, girls. So you get full pubertal development in the natal gender which you are supposed to get after you stop the treatment. So treating the gender dysphoria, gender incoherent adolescents entering puberty gender loss has been shown to improve psychological function. So blocking these pubertal hormones early in puberty is that the physical outcomes improve. Now, if you do a blockage maybe after the puberty is set in, or after the girl has got breast development, or the boy has got a enlarged penis and his testicle volume increasing, gets facial hair. So this will have a different output as compared to when you do it before, when you not let the physical, when you not let the features to come at all. Now, what are the criteria to be for the use in children? We talked about adults and all. Let's talk about children. First of all, you have shown a long-lasting and intense pattern of gender non-conformity or gender incongruence to gender dysphoria. You've shown a long time. Second is have gender dysphoria that begin or worsen at the start of puberty. So when the puberty started, it's just becoming bad and bad. Then or if there's any psychological, which is going to be definitely there may be a social problem. You have to address all that before you start with the treatment, because it may interfere with adherence. You have started and the parents or someone says no. So maybe there is another issue, has some he has some problem that which is maybe is mentally deranged or mentally something, that then when you start generally you'll have problem. So you have to be sure about that you have all this, so that may cause problem with adherence if you do not. that provide informed consent. If especially if the adolescent has not reached the age of legal medical consent, and the parents or the caretakers or the guardians have consented to treatment and are involved in supporting the adolescent through the treatment process. The adolescent has been informed of the effects and side effects of treatment. This is very, very important, that they should know the sides, what you're going to do when you're going to do the treatment, what is going to happen. And if at the age of 60 or 17, you're going to start, a treatment with affirmative sex order, they might lose fertility. It is possible. It is many articles that they will show that. So, and they might be told or the option to preserve fertility is also there. So that means if he does not go on to, to the long-term process of getting surgeries, all that, we can preserve it. So you have to give all the options must be there. That means the effects and the size of treatment and the option to preserve fertility. A pediatric endocrinologist or any other clinician who has an idea of transgender identity or transgender, he knows about gender, all these things, he must be experienced in pubertal assessment. So he will have to agree that you are going to start GnRH agonist treatment. He has confirmed you that puberty has started and the adolescent, the TANF stage is G2 or B2. G2, for boys and B2 for girls, breast development, testicle volume, and has confirmed that very important that there is no medical contradiction to GnRH agonist. So therefore, when you have been sure of this, then you can go ahead with this. So I will just close my session with this. So thank you very much for your patient listening. I think we'll have the question in the panel discussion as Dr. Sanjay wants. Thank you very much.